Hopefully crisis averted. It sort of lines up. It's loose. So as you can tell from the state of the cylinder, and I'll show you the other bits and pieces of the internals, someone's had a right go at it, and it's obviously led a bit of a hard life, as it were. So the trigger unit, apart from being all horrible, dirty and greasy, let's see, it's actually it should be a screw hole there, and they'd forced a nut into it, try and turn it into a captive nut, and then JB weld it in place. Some of the little bearings a little bit loose, so I might give it an overhaul actually, just get the case. I'm bidding on one, the whole complete unit. If I can get that for a reasonable price, then fair enough. If not, then I'll see about getting the metal plate or the case, take out the internals, clean them up and see what needs doing. But I'd say this gun's turning into a bit of a nightmare at the minute. I took a picture earlier, the internals, OMG. So this was the piston sleeve, which I believe is literally just a bit of aluminium pipe that they've sliced down the middle. So it's the wrong gauge. It's all chewed up. So as you can see, it's a square section spring, so I'm assuming it's an ox spring. It doesn't look bent, but I can certainly see why people might say that when you put one in, it's quite harsh. Things like a proper solid. So it looks like it might actually be the right length for my H35. There's a long story behind that, but it's had different springs in it. But yeah, might be worthwhile keeping just as a spare. Don't know, harsh, heavy thing. And the thing which made me chuckle the most about the internals was this. So it's a piston guide, or spring guide, sorry. It's a piece of copper tubing that's been flanged at the bottom. It's got a metal spacer, and then these are cardboard. And that's your spring guide. I mean, I can't knock them. Whoever fucking bodged this gun together, there is some ingenuity there. But, oh my god. So I'll most likely get a new piston sleeve anyway. I'll get an original Weihrauch mainspring, and I don't know whether to get a top hat and a spring guide out of Delrin, or just go completely stock and factory, which I may or may not do anyway. I've already got a TBT kit, or part of it, in the HW35, so I've got odds and sods, so I'm sure I could cobble something together, depending on the spring internal diameter. But yeah, I think I'll just go completely stock for the internals. So the piston itself, in the HW35 and the 80, it's a 30mm, so that's quite the unit. It is heavy, I think it's about 300 grams or so, but that's off the top of my head, I've not weighed it. It's slightly longer than the HW35. Or is it shorter? Oh, I can't remember now, who cares. Anyway, it's a big old bifter of a piston. Obviously goes firing down the chamber and pushes out the air. So this is the seal that was on it. Doesn't look too bad actually. There was a little nick in it somewhere, I think it's there. Quite stiff. So the easiest way to get it off is to just dunk the lot in some boiling water for a couple of minutes, take it out. Obviously when it's a bit cooler, and it just pops straight off. And that can be the same for putting it on as well. So I did sand this down with some wet and dry, from 120 up to about 600, I think it was. No, it might have been higher than that. It was 800. Just basically chucked it into the drill and spun it, and obviously sanded it There's not too many points of contact actually. It's basically the rubber seal at the end, and then just at the end where it's just about, you can see it flares out. So that's in contact with the inner piston, or the inner chamber, and then it's just the tip of the piston as well. So you don't actually need to polish any of this, it's sort of superfluous really, but as long as you put some moly grease on this end and up this end, obviously on the side of the seal, as long as you don't put it on the front because otherwise you get diesel in, but that should be good. And that's polished up alright actually, a few little scratches and dings, but that's just, it's nowhere near the fire in action or going to impede on performance at all. It is greasy, it's going to get soaked in some degreaser along with the other parts, but that's not too bad. So as you can see from the little video earlier, this connection here is loose, hence why it's able to rotate further than it should do. With the PTFE tape, it does actually resolve that problem. I don't know whether that fix is actually worse than the problem or not, but it does mean that I can at least potentially carry on with this rather than having to fork out for a new cylinder. I have seen just an end cap for sale, but then again I don't know whether this is fine and it's that's the problem, or that's the problem, this is fine. So I have seen a whole unit for second hand, which I've got my eye on, but as long as that sorts out the loose connection there, it should give her a bit more stability, because otherwise all that's holding this in place is the sear, which will sit in there somewhere, and a trigger bolt, or trigger guard bolt. So not a lot, and obviously seeing this thing twangs like a wasp name, I don't really want to put a lot of stress on it, but it has cleaned up quite nicely, albeit they've welded in a little nut. Cut it off, no idea why. Has anyone ever seen one of these fail? Or do you reckon they've stripped it? They might have stripped the threads actually. I don't know. So it's been sort of rubbed down up to, I think it's 320. I'll leave it like that for a while. It's just got some paper in there just to soak up any of the oil and grease, and I've sprayed a load of degreaser on it, some clutch and brake fluid. See about soaking this for a good few hours before getting it out, degreasing it, polishing it up, and then seeing about bluing it as and when my stuff arrives. I've still been waiting over a week and it's not arrived. But I have to say, with the barrel's in this state as well, just literally polished, waiting for the next step. I don't know if to leave it. I literally don't know whether to go that extra little mile and see if I can get it, not mirrored, but certainly a satin even finish, and then leaving it. I'll put a little picture up of the this in the stock, and I don't think it looks too bad. I don't know obviously about some of the bolts and the screws, but I've got some brass ones coming for these, the fore end, and obviously you can get brass and other bits instead of the blue. You will have like the cylinder, that will be dark and blue, I don't know. But yeah, I might leave it like that actually for a while until I can sort things out. But yeah, well, hopefully that's a nice quick fix for the PTFE tape. And then next step is literally just degrease, clean, and blue.